On the night of June 12, 1994 at 10:15 p.m., Pablo Fenjas heard the barking of Nicole Brown Simpson's dog, but did not think much of it. Earlier that night, Nicole Brown Simpson was at her daughter's dance recital with her ex-husband, O.J. Simpson, and her family. Afterwards, she went to dinner with her family, and O.J. went home in his white Ford Bronco. Once Nicole got home from dinner, her mother realized that she left her glasses at the restaurant. Ronald Goldman, who was a waiter there and friend of Nicole, volunteered to return the glasses. At about 9:50 p.m., Goldman left the restaurant to return the glasses. At 12:10 a.m., only a few hours later, both Goldman and Nicole Simpson were found dead at Nicole Simpson's house. O.J., Nicole's ex-husband, was a Heisman Trophy winner and retired NFL player. He had moved on to acting, and after the recital, O.J. went home, and about 9 p.m., he and his friend Brian Cato O'Callaghan went to McDonald's for dinner. They got home at about 9:45 p.m., and that was the last time O.J. was seen until 11 p.m. At 10:25 p.m., a limo arrived at O.J.'s house to take O.J. to the airport. The driver buzzed the gate multiple times, but no one ever answered. A bit before 11 p.m., the driver saw an African-American man at about 6 feet and 200 pounds walk across O.J.'s driveway. At 11 p.m., O.J. was putting his bags in the limo, and then O.J. got on a plane for Chicago. The next morning, a few detectives named Mark Furman and Philip Vanatter arrived at O.J.'s LA estate to tell O.J. of his ex-wife's death. When Furman and Vanatter arrived at the house, they found a bloody glove that matched the one at Nicole's house. They then declared the house a crime scene and got warrants to search it. Later in the morning, O.J. got a call in his hotel room in Chicago about his ex-wife's death. The first thing he said was, "Who killed her?" He had only been told that she was dead, not that she had been killed. Simpson was then declared the suspect of the murders, and the LAPD gave him until June 17th at 11 a.m. to turn himself in. He did not, leading to the infamous Ford Bronco chase. The Bronco was driven by O.J.'s friend A.C. Cowling, who was then arrested for aiding a fugitive. The chase lasted for 2 hours, and those 2 hours O.J. had a gun to his head threatening suicide. After 2 hours, the driver pulled into O.J.'s house and he was arrested. O.J. had been assembling what is called the dream team of lawyers, including Robert Kardashian, Robert Shapiro, Johnny Cochran, and a few more. The prosecution thought that this case was a slam dunk. They had O.J.'s blood found on a glove at the crime scene, a glove that matched that other glove at O.J.'s house. Both gloves had all O.J.'s, Nicole's, and Goldman's blood on it. Goldman's blood was also found in the white Bronco, but the prosecution made some mistakes. Evidence wasn't labeled properly, and the first detective on the scene was found out to be a racist from some tapes that were released. The defense turned this into a trial of the LAPD's racism, some would say. They said this because of Furman being first on the scene of O.J.'s house and that he planted the evidence there. The trial turned from being about O.J. Simpson to exposing the racism of the LAPD. The defense brought up the racism to the majority African-American jury, and they claimed that the jury needed to say that O.J. was innocent because it was just the system oppressing African-Americans and prosecuting them for crimes that they did not commit. Although the biggest win for the defense and loss for the prosecution was the prosecution asking O.J. to try on the gloves. O.J. did that, but his hand was too small. Some believed that he had stopped taking his arthritis medication before the trial and that his hand swelled up, but that wasn't a good enough argument. In the closing statement from Johnny Cochran, he said that the now infamous line, "If it doesn't fit, you must acquit." In only 4 hours, the jury had a verdict. This was a year-long case that was decided in 4 hours. The jury found O.J. Simpson not guilty, and this not only shocked the prosecution but the defense as well.
You know what? When I was at San Francisco State University when the verdict was announced, and I remember that everybody was kind of waiting for the protests because it was only a few years after the Rodney King trial. And when there was the not guilty verdict, it was actually more of a celebration on campus because everybody had been so tense waiting for some sort of riots and protests that the not guilty verdict kind of alleviated all that all of a sudden. No, I remember it was just sort of everywhere. You couldn't go out for a cup of coffee without hearing people talking about it. It was on TV almost all the time, and everybody was always talking about it. I spent a lot of time trying to avoid it because it really wasn't anything that I was that interested in at the time. But it was kind of pervasive. It kind of ran throughout all society at the time. It was almost a happy, celebratory time. As I said, everybody was kind of waiting for these race riots to erupt with the guilty verdict. There was a lot of news people who had predicted that there would be riots similar to the Rodney King riots. And I actually remember quite a few people out just celebrating the fact that wasn't going to happen. I think the most iconic moment of the trial was the white Suburban car chase, because that was kind of the moment that people really realized how much this is going to play out on television and what a public ordeal this trial was going to end up being. I did watch pieces of the chase live. It was kind of in the background, and I was doing some other stuff at the time. But the TV was turned on. It was on pretty much every channel, so you couldn't avoid it if you had the TV on. You know what? I know that he was found to be innocent in a court of law. Whether he is or is not, only he's going to end up knowing. I don't think that there's enough evidence to go ahead and change if the trial happened today. I don't think there would be enough evidence to change the verdict. And at the same time, I think that the outcome of the trial really changed his life one way or the other, whether he was innocent or not.
So did O.J. murder his ex-wife and Ron Goldman? Only he knows. Legally, he didn't, but there is still a lot of evidence saying that he did. No one else has been arrested or even considered a suspect for this case, and it's likely no one will. This was known as the case of the century, although most people did not agree with the verdict. The killer of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman has not been brought to justice and likely never will.